Are we missing Tracy?
Missing Tracy, I already texted her. And Ashley is not feeling well, so he's coming. He's just going to slowly join us.
Got it.
All right. All right. Thank you, Steve. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for your patience and thank you for being here at our what is today's date? April 20th regular meeting. It is 7:05, so I am calling the meeting to order. Our first item up is to open the hearing for the Repair Reserve Fund. So can I get a motion to open the public hearing on the Repair Reserve Fund?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, hearing none. The hearing is ready. We have a presentation, I believe. Great. Okay.
Okay. Could you let BBS into out of the waiting room, Laser?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is the public hearing for the Repair Reserve Fund. The Repair Reserve Fund was established in May of, oh, Laser, could you put up the presentation?
Yep, hold on one second.
Okay, thank you. Again, this is the public hearing for the Repair Reserve Fund. Next slide, Laser. The Repair Reserve Fund was established in May of 2016 to fund repair work at the Greenberg Central School District. The reserve functions as a savings account and is funded through voter authorization. The reserve fund can only be used for needed repairs that do not recur annually or at shorter intervals. And as of April, there was $1,611,827 in the reserve. Next. In order to access the repair reserve, the district needed to identify projects that would warrant repairs to be done. They did this along with their architects. The Board of Education then would hold a public hearing to educate the public on the needed repairs and the cost of these repairs. Then the board will vote to authorize the use of these funds from the repair reserve. Next. The board is holding this hearing regarding a proposed total appropriation of $357,500 to be used as part of the capital construction phase 1 for needed repairs. If after this hearing the appropriation is approved by the board, the money will be moved from the Repair Reserve Fund into the capital construction phase 1 to help fund this project. Next. The projects that are proposed in the March 16th presentation by our architects, BBS, that were identified as repairs are as follows. At the mansion, there's $18,500 worth of repairs for plumbing repairs in the bathrooms and electrical repairs to emergency lighting. At LF Jackson Elementary School, there's $100,000 worth of repairs to pneumatic controls to monitor and control the mechanical system. And at Highview Elementary School, there's $40,000 worth of identified repairs needed for the elevator. Next. At R.J. Bailey Elementary School, there's $104,000 worth of repairs to the exhaust system and to the emergency lighting. And at the Woodlands Middle High School, there's $95,000 worth of repairs needed to the ductwork and operation of fresh airflow to classrooms, as well as electrical repairs to the emergency lighting. Again, this total approximate cost is $357,500. These monies will be moved again from the repair reserve to the general fund as an interfund transfer, then to the capital fund to help offset the cost of the $5.1 million project for phase one. Next. If there are any questions, we have our architects from BBS here to help us answer any questions that the public may have.
So, at this time, there were no one signed up for any questions. Board, do you have any questions? Tanya, and then Terry.
So I don't really have a question. I just, Lisa, if you could just really reiterate to the public that this is a kind of a financial maneuver to fill a gap for that phase one, so that they don't think that somehow that was now suddenly reduced to this amount. So
Correct. So the
just
phase,
explain
yes.
a little more clearly why we have to do this.
Yes. So the phase one capital construction project is estimated to cost $5,135,000, as was presented in BBS's March 16th presentation. In looking at the work that is to be done, it was intended that we're going to use the whole $1.6 million towards phase one. After reviewing this with our external auditors and our legal counsel, it was determined that we could not transfer all $1.6 million because there was not, excuse me, there was not $1.6 million of quote unquote repairs to be done. So we identified what the repairs in this proposed project would be, and that's the $357,500 that we will now use from the repair reserve to help offset that $5.135 million. And then the remainder of the money, you will see when we do the budget presentation where that money is coming from, so that the whole $5,135,000 between repair reserve and capital fund monies will be there to fund the project.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Terry?
So, Antoinette, you mentioned that you didn't have any questions from the public ahead of time. Did we send out publicly the presentation that we're seeing today? I mean, I know we received it ahead of time as part of our packet, but did the public receive it?
I did
No,
not send that, no.
Okay.
no,
The,
but there also, Mr. Williams, there was a, Ivy had to advertise a notice that this was happening and that people had the opportunity to sign up to speak if they wanted to.
Right. But, and again, obviously we're operating in COVID times and remotely and the like. And I don't necessarily see it as two parallel things, you know, signing up to speak for instance, at our public meeting, which is what we require, versus a public hearing. So let me use an example here and try to keep it quick. If we were meeting in public, we would ask people to sign a piece of paper, and then Ivy would call them up and they would ask their questions, and they'd still have 4 minutes, or now it's been reduced to 2 minutes, unfortunately. But at the same time, if we were meeting in public and we had this presentation, people could come up at any time without signing up and ask their questions. The point being, the point that I'm making here is lacking that ability to ask questions based on something that they're hearing now. Shouldn't we allow people at least to, if by no other, certainly not getting them to join the Zoom call, but allowing them to ask questions via the chat in YouTube?
Thank you, Terry. Okay, Tracy.
Are there any questions on the YouTube chat about the repair reserve specifically?
I can check, sure.
Thank you, Laser.
Carol, while we wait, any thoughts on this? Yes. Just with in regards to the questions, I know that this has been posted for a while, and so my question is like, how can we move forward? Would it be fine to take questions from the YouTube channel, if there are any out there?
You certainly can take questions if anyone has a question. You wouldn't typically pass out the presentation in advance because the purpose of it is to explain it contemporaneously.
Okay.
But certainly if there's somebody out there who has a question, they can be allowed to ask it.
Okay, thank you,
But
Carol.
it should not hold up the purpose of the hearing tonight.
Okay. Laser, and anything on the YouTube chat?
Yeah, I have a question from Pamela Davis.
Okay.
So the work that is being done regarding repairs, is that for COVID?
No.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Are they for COVID?
Oh,
Yes.
are they?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I heard laser, I didn't hear the response. Okay, all right. Laser, do you see any other questions?
Nope, that's it.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Miss Carey?
I would just like to ask Ivy, how do we usually handle our hearings? You know, how did we used to handle our hearings? You know, so that we'll get a better idea of how to do it next time.
The last public hearing that you held, it was a plan. I don't remember the name of the plan off the top of my head, that had to be filed with the state. That was done in a similar fashion where everyone had to register, and one person did register in advance for that public hearing. When you meet in person, what Mr. Williams stated was correct, that members of the public, when you open the public hearing and you make a presentation, usually members of the public can speak. They normally don't have to sign up to speak at the hearing, but that hasn't been the case with your remote meetings of late.
Thank you, Ivy.
Okay, Terry is.
Yes, I would just add two things. Thank you, Ivy, for reminding us how we did the last public hearing. But the point that I would make here is just given the fact that we are at budget time, given the fact that we're asking our residents for, we will be asking them to pass the budget. We will be asking them to support this resolution, even though we're the ones who are voting for it. I think that transparency is of the highest order here, particularly when we go back and realize that we're in this position because the board did not pass some of this money last year. We've seen it on the social media about how the community was annoyed by that. And I think it's in good faith to perhaps keep this open for a few minutes to see if anybody on the YouTube channel has any other questions. I don't think a few minutes would hurt us. It could only be to our benefit because it shows an attempt to be transparent.
Madam Chair,
Yes, and then David.
Madam Chair, I believe that, we have done our due diligence, and anyone who have wanted to speak would have signed up, and those who didn't and wanted to speak had the opportunity. So I believe that politicking right now is not the greatest thing, so why don't we just try to move on into other business that we have to do tonight?
Okay.
I concur.
David,
Okay, then what I'm about to say doesn't matter. I was going to suggest we backtrack a couple of slides and let the architects talk through the bullet points. And then you'll have greater depth and detail and time for people to respond.
I concur with David.
So, Madam President, can you take a vote on that?
yeah.
Thanks.
So, who is for the architects going back and giving more detail per bullet point?
I'm sorry, I just have a question because I feel that we've already been through all of this and that this
Thank
is
you.
just a budget maneuver so that we can fill a gap in the monies that are needed to complete phase one, which I think we have rather extensively presented both in FFC meetings and in our public meetings. So I feel that we have done our due diligence here. We're just doing like a, I hate to call it, but essentially like a switcheroo just so that we can fill the gap. So with that said, I guess I would just prefer to move on. Thank you.
Okay, I did have one question getting clarity on. Did we ever answer the question about are the repairs, correct me if I'm wrong, are the repairs being done, the money being used for COVID repairs? I believe that was the question. If it wasn't, Ivy, you might have caught the total question if I'm wrong.
I can answer part of that if you'd like. Out of the 5.1 million, probably 3/4 of that money, yes, is being used for COVID repairs. It's for fresh air, ventilation for your buildings, most specifically Bailey for the most part, because that building needs the most amount of work. Out of the actual repair reserve, the items that were shown earlier, not a lot of that is COVID, because a lot of the COVID work that you had is not considered repair. It's considered replacement of equipment that was not operational and could not be repaired. So I would say out of the repair reserve, no, majority of that is not COVID related, but out of the overall 5.1 million, yes, the majority of that is absolutely COVID related.
Okay.
Angela, I
Tracy,
have my hand up.
I'm sorry, could you hold on? I called Tracy.
Sure.
Terry, you go after. Thank you.
I just want to be clear, we do have a motion on the floor. I would like to move forward. I thank you for answering that, Mr. Seba. I do think that's confusing for the community. Right now, we're doing the repair reserve. No, it's not specific to COVID. So when we get to the phased plans, then we can talk about COVID, but right now this is not. And I would love for us to be able to vote on this so we can move forward with it. So I'm just asking if we can, I know there's another comment. I don't know how many more people have comments.
Well, there's not a motion on the floor. Nobody made a motion, nobody seconded a motion. So that's the point of fact. So just to make the point that I'm going to make is that even in the few minutes where we have debated this, we see that some people from the community have asked a few additional questions. And again, getting a few answers to these questions, if we were in public again, this is a situation that is less than ideal. So we're trying to basically make the best of a bad situation. The way to do that is to try to replicate how we would do it publicly. This is not politicking. Some people, because things don't go their way, they call it politicking. Well, it's not politicking. It's about transparency. It's about, people trying to get the public on our side again. I mean, as you know, some of you supported going to 2 minutes instead of 4 minutes. This is all about transparency.
I'm sorry, Terry.
Well, you can disagree with me, but
Terry,
let me finish my point.
Could you hold on for 1 second?
No,
because
I'd
you've
like to
been
make my
talking
point.
for several minutes, and I actually would like to take another question. So that's why I'm
Sure.
asking you, if you could just calm down and just.
No, you calm down and
sorry
stop
to interrupt.
interrupting me. You calm down. You calm down. Show some presidential. Please show some presidential
Can I get
attitude,
the
please.
other question, please?
From you two?
Yes, please. Thank you, Laser. I appreciate that.
Pamela Davis, there was a notice on the website regarding the April 6th meeting telling us we would hear this information on the 20th. Is this correct?
Yes.
Katie McGee has a question, and Chris Phelan.
Yes, Catherine McGee.
Laser, the answer to Pamela Davis's question is yes.
Thank you.
Catherine McGee. Wait, the answer was no. Some of those repairs are related to ventilation. That's related to COVID, isn't it? For example, LJ repair to pneumatic controls.
Thank you, Fred, for answering.
So the repair to pneumatic controls is COVID related. That is regarding bringing fresh air into the classrooms. What the district has done temporarily is basically wedge the fresh air intakes open so that the schools are bringing in fresh air. However, that is not a good place really to be. We want to get control of those so that they close in the evenings, they open during the day, they open when they're supposed to. So that portion of it is COVID related, yes.
I guess these two are comments, and Bailey's repairs to the exhaust system, Chris Vallon, and WMHS repair operation of fresh air flow to classroom. Sorry.
So the exhaust air system is the relief air system for that building. And so the fresh air gets brought in and then that system takes the stale air out of the building. So I guess that could be considered COVID related as well, because it will help the airflow in that building.
Okay, Catherine McGee, so why was the answer no?
I would say the answer is yes on that as well.
Chris Vallon, which also begs the question as to whether the Fed money can be allocated to this item since seems to be related to COVID.
That's for Lisa, I would suspect, right?
Yes. We are still waiting on some of the guidelines for that federal money and how it is to be spent. We do know that there will be an application process. I am assuming that some of that money can be used to fund some of those projects. But again, we're still just waiting for some of the guidelines for schools and the process that we have to follow.
Okay, Laser, do you see any?
Nope, that's it for the questions.
Laser, one other quick thing. Would you be able to allow Jim Wadig into the meeting of our office?
Yeah, there's names I don't recognize.
It's Jim Wadig. He is with BBS as well.
I don't see his name there.
Yeah, I don't see his name. It just says
there was a mystery person, right?
There's a Melissa Starks, a Leonardo, Katie, and John.
Okay. And that is actually, why is he listed under Melissa Starks? Yes, let him in.
Oh,
that would be great.
Madam Chair, what are we doing now? Where are we?
Fred, you were just asking Jim to come in just to come in, or does he have something to add also?
I don't think he has anything to add regarding that particular item, but Jim has been working on a lot of the other work like the security vestibules and the mansion roof. So in case there were any questions regarding that, I felt he should be part of the meeting.
Okay.
So then were we?
Madam Chair, how long do we have to stay into a closed session?
I'm not sure how.
Are we an hour or an hour and a half or 2 hours? What are we doing?
In the closed and when we go into executive session?
Yeah, we're going to exec session, yeah. Because we still have you know, we still have a lot of
items,
you know, situations we have to work on. So I'm wondering when we're going to move on. This is already an hour almost. At least a half.
I'm sorry, Ms. Carey. Yes, we're getting there now. So since right now we are doing the hearing itself, I'm thinking, Jim, yes, Jim, unless you have anything to add in regards to the hearing for the repair reserves.
In case any questions come up, but at this point, nothing to add more than what we've already provided you with.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. Any board members with questions?
Can I move to,
Let's move on,
Sure.
please.
can I make a motion, Antoinette?
Sure.
You want to read the motion? Because I don't have it in front of me.
All right, thought you were gonna do it. So, as far as that, so can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you for the questions from the public. Yeah, thank you for that. Next we have is statements from the public.
I have to be made co-host.
Mhm.
Please, so do I.
Okay, the first speaker is Chris Fallon, and I'm gonna let her in now.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, okay, I see. Hi, Chris. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. When you're ready.
Okay. Because we got this fantastic communication from Dr. Chase as the meeting was starting, I have to ask a question about it. So I apologize for not giving advance notice. Thank you. Thank you for the work that the educators, the admin have been doing to prepare for reopening. I've already gotten multiple texts saying, yay, everyone's thrilled, for those who intend to send their children back to school. I took a quick look at the survey results, and I'm going to say it's roughly 50% of the student population at each school seems to have replied. So I hate to throw cold water on this, but I have to ask the question just for planning purposes. What if more people reply by Thursday, the 22nd, saying they want to come back than reply to the survey? Are we going to have a space issue, or are we taking into account that possibility as far as maintaining the 3-foot and 6-foot distancing? That's my first question. I'm going to cross my fingers.
Do you want me to answer it, or do you want to continue with your questions?
As long as I get my time, I don't care.
So the answer to your question is yes. We've already made provisions for that. We recognize that not everyone responds. And typically those who don't respond are those who are already on remote. So many feel like they don't really need to respond, and we recognize that. So we've already made those provisions. We've had the conversations with our principals. We're even preparing for overages and spillages should that happen. So to answer your question in a nutshell, yes.
Yay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, as a follow-up then to the latter part of the email, and it kind of piggybacks with 2 other communications I've seen regarding the testing schedule. And I'm sorry, I'm not looking at you. I need to look at the communication.
No worries.
I understand. Okay, we received communication a few weeks ago, and I had thought that cohort A, grades 7 and 8, were going to be doing their ELA testing today while they were in the building, and cohort B would be doing it next week. Now, according to 2 communications this week, that's not the plan. I just want some clarification so parents know what to expect.
Absolutely. So we made some adjustments for the purpose of welcoming our students back full-time, 5 days a week. Dr. Reynolds can elaborate more on what the plan is for testing, but I do want to share with you, Ms. Vallon, that we made the changes for the purpose of having a seamless welcome back for our students, so they're not just coming back into testing. And so we wanted to make sure that, you know, their social emotional needs were met. So as they're reacclimating to coming back, they're not testing at the same time. But Dr. Reynolds could speak more to the schedule for us. Thanks,
Thank you,
Dr.
Dr. Chase.
Absolutely.
Good evening, Ms. Fallon. I basically second what Dr. Chase said. So we made some last minute adjustments in order to be able to accommodate our students returning to us 5 days a week. Particularly paying attention to the information that was provided by NYSED that states that our state tests would not be used for any accountability purposes, and with the allowance of the Federal Department of Education making the same allowance, we know that we are required to test those who are in school in person at that given time on whichever day we choose to give the test. So we were able to make that adjustment. This way we'd be able to test most of our cohorts A and cohort B students next week, because our first day back in for grades 3 through 6 will be on Monday, the day before testing.
Right. Right. So then, okay. All right. So it's just grade 7 and 8 that will have the split day on the 27th.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. And I'm running out of time. My last question, I'm so sorry. Item G4, the capital fund transfer. Now, I did take a quick look at Ms. Raymond's presentation that I don't know if it's being made today or on May 4th for the budget. Oh, I'm running out of time. These items that are moving out of the capital sub-fund and into the general fund, I understand that at a different time, they'll be moved back out of the general fund and into a new capital sub-fund for phase 1. And I'm just curious, will that happen before the end of this fiscal year?
That is correct. And that is part of the budget presentation for tonight. But yes, once the budget is passed, those funds can then be transferred, but not until that time.
Okay. I was just confused because I saw it in the budget presentation, so I didn't know which fiscal year it would be moved. But as long as we're not going to count on those funds as being available for the extra that hopefully the referendum will address. We'll talk about it Thursday at the finance committee meeting, which everyone should go to.
Okay.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Tracy.
Sorry. And the next speaker I have here is, sorry, I got to reopen the file. Okay, the next person on the list is Pamela Davis. I'm letting her in right now. Oh, Chris left on her own. She's in, but I think she's muted.
Oh, the telephone number? I think so. Okay.
You ready?
Pam?
Yeah, you got me?
Okay, yes, we can hear you.
Okay, very good. No, I should be unmuted.
Yes.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Okay. Just a couple of things to address. I received the information for re-entry for this school, the rest of the school year. I just want to know, when will there be planning for fall, when we will start that, especially with facilities and work that has to be done. What will we look like in the fall? Also want to bring to ask if a remote student can come in to take state tests as well. Also want to bring to the fact about district candidates night. The PTA is giving the night on May 10th for the candidates through the district for the community. I also want to bring to point, boy, I'm covering a lot in a short period of time. the car wash that keeps happening, that's open. Apparently there was a sign that was moved that you could not make a left turn, and now all of a sudden it's safe enough to make a left turn out of the gas station, and it's moved to a corner. So people can't even go down their own street between the hours of 8 to 6. They're not allowed to do that. So I'm just bringing that to attention, and I'm hoping that we will address that soon. Thank you.
Pam, can you say that one? I'm trying to take notes on what you said. You said there was a, when you came out of the car wash, or even on the where the gas station is, you are not allowed to make a left. There
was, before they started the work on the gas station, there was a sign that was there that you could not make a left turn if you were coming out of the gas station, because you'd be turning in, you'd be crossing over a lane and turning onto Hillside, of which you would either have to go directly into the left lane if you had to move right. Now, since the car wash has been put up, that sign has been removed. So I'm not quite sure why they're saying it's safe now, because that sign isn't there, and it has moved to the corner, which I can't remember the name of the street, but now there's a sign that you can't turn in that block between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 a.m. And that's a residence, and that's where people live. And I don't know how clear that's going to be for the community, because I have not heard them say anything about that. But again, just where this entrance of this car wash is coming in and being able to make turns, it is the driveway right next to where our cars from RJ Bailey and buses exit if they have to make left turns or right turns. So I'm just bringing that attention to you, and this is not going to go away.
Thank you. All right. So that, I guess we'll have to find that information out, why that is. And then as far as when will there be planning for the fall, I would say at least by, the beginning of, the beginning of the school year, beginning of the summer. So I would say in July that planning would possibly start. I'm not sure. I know it's been requested and suggested of restarting the reopening committees. So that has been talked about. So I'm not exactly sure to say which specific date, but those are the things that I could think about, is possibly, like we've heard and said before, starting those reopening committees and seeing how maybe they need to be, I don't know, reconfigured, or just, put out there and have people participate and join in and get started that way. I don't know. That's my thought in my head. And then I would say Dr. Chase or Dr. Reynolds, if remote students come into school to take, can they come into school to take state exams?
So the state guidelines, according to the state guidelines, there's no provision for it. And also too, it is not recommended.
And why is that?
Those were the guidelines. I don't know why they did not recommend it. I really don't know. I don't know if Dr. Reynolds has been on a couple of webinars, who may be able to be in a better position to answer that question.
Thank you, Dr. Chase. Good evening. So the state regulation, the state guidelines explicitly stated that we should not bring students back to school who are fully remote to take state tests, because of the concern that parents have in relation to infectious rates and having to create a new cohort coming in for the purpose of state tests. It is not recommended for that to take place. Some districts are electing to do it, but we do not feel it is in our best interest to allow students who are fully remote come in for state tests, particularly because these tests are not going to be used for for purposes of tracking student performance, number one. Number two, it is only one day and a portion of the first day of the test, so it's not even the full test that's being administered.
Okay. Okay, all right. I just want to just reemphasize the need for us to be in planning for fall opening. We're already at a point where it's May. It's going to be May soon, and I hate for us to get to wait till the summer to even start when we really should be in this, or should have been in this mode already. So I'm just emphasizing that. Thank you.
Thank you. I hear you, Pam. Okay. Tracy, I did see your hand up. David, I just saw yours.
I was gonna say, well, David, were you gonna respond to the reopening piece?
I was going to say, we have our architects in front of us. Are you guys working on it, the ECP portion? Are you working on the thing we had to do with the furnace and all that? Fred's, you're muted.
I do know
Sorry.
that
Yes.
Mr. Falcone has been working with our carpenter and our exterminator. They've been doing that work around the building, and painting on the outside has started. And Fred, I believe, and Jim, that Mike has been in touch with you guys to start the other work that is needed to get the building ready and up and running for September.
Yes, we have started the design work on the ECP, HVAC system, mechanical systems that we had discussed, as well as given Mr. Falcone the information regarding window repair company that we had mentioned, I believe, at the last meeting. So we are in the process of working on all of that right now.
Okay, and based on that, buildings will be ready for, everyone will be able to come back into the school by September, based on what you're talking about right now, which I'm sure you'll probably elaborate at other meetings.
Yes, those repairs are all projected to be done before school opening in September.
Great, thank you. Still
Great.
need a task force.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Have a good evening.
Thanks.
Okay, Tracy, I saw your hand up.
I have a question, Mr. Seba, but then I also had a question about a comment that Pam brought up. So Mr. Seba, I was in some meeting, I'm not on your facilities committee anymore, but I was in a meeting, I thought I heard someone say it shouldn't be more than 2 months to do that work. Is that accurate or no?
Yes, that's what we projected.
Okay, so if it's April, hopefully by, it'll be done by June?
Yeah, I would say sometime in June or July at the latest.
Awesome. Okay. So the question that I had before, Ms. Davis was asking about remote students taking exams in person. And so my question about that is, I mean, of course, we don't know how many remote students might want to do that, but at least with like Picture Day, I know they had an option for virtual students to come in. And, you know, you could call and make an appointment and come in. Is it possible to do something like that, Dr. Reynolds, with virtual students if their families would prefer for them to take the exam in a classroom environment? Then they could maybe come in on a Saturday like they did with Picture Day, or even virtual students that get to take the ACT in person. Is there any way to make that sort of provision for families?
Well, state tests must be administered during the regular school day, during regular school hours. So that will not be a provision that we'd be able to allow.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay. Tracy is next.
Okay, great. Yes. So the next speaker is going to be Katie McGee. I'm going to let her in right now.
Okay, Katie, we're ready when you are. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I apologize. I was watching on, YouTube, and there's that delay.
No problem. Okay.
Okay. You ready for me?
Yep, we're ready when you are.
Sorry.
No problem.
Um, all right, so I guess I want to first say, urge the board, could you please reconsider the 2-minute limit to at least 3 minutes, maybe 4? Please put it on your agenda and have a vote again, especially on a night when there's like a public hearing and there's a budget like resolution on the agenda, and there's like a lot to say about that, or there could be. And on a matter of like principle, I would think the board wants input from the community before you vote on like the bottom line budget number. And, because we're the people who vote on the budget and vote on the board members. So anyway, here I am already a minute into it. As far as the repair reserve hearing, maybe in the future, for future hearings, you could like consider maybe a webinar feature or something where you have a lot of control. You could mute people, but unmute them when they want to speak. Because that chat thing, I was delayed and it didn't make sense with the questions. It was very difficult. So just something to think about. The budget, I saw it online today. Today's the day of the meeting. Is it unusual that it's posted for the public this late on the day that it's going to be voted on, the proposed final draft? I know it's definitely different than last year. So I know it's really detailed. There's definitely great detail in that, and I appreciate the work that administration has done. But again, I guess I'm wondering if you approve it tonight, like the 77+ million, will there be any chance of, if the community feels strongly about reallocating something within that to a different priority, or is it like set in stone after tonight, like the final draft? That's what I want to know. See, I know.
So, Katie, I'm sorry. So you said a lot, Katie. So is it, let me see, reconsider the 3 minutes and reconsider the 3 minutes and place, I think you said on the agenda for us to vote on that. So I think that's something, of course, that the board can discuss. Is it unusual to have the budget so late? I can't answer that question. I know I can say from last year, I know we had several different iterations of it, and so we shared it each time that we did have another one. And let me see. As far as the budget hearing, I know at one time, David, we had mentioned a couple of times to do that meeting that we did last year, the facilities committee. It didn't happen this year.
CEC is planning to have a meeting dedicated entirely to feedback on the budget.
Yeah.
In addition, the Finance and Facilities Committee meeting this coming Thursday, we will go over the budget, and we may hone in a little more on the facilities side, but we'll go over the budget. So there's an opportunity to get into the nitty gritty there as well. So you've got at least 2 opportunities set up for that.
Okay.
Can I just respond real brief? I understand that, but tonight you're voting on something. So on Thursday, it's already going to be either approved or not approved. But if it's approved tonight, then we're talking feedback after the fact.
Yeah.
So I'm asking for like, I just want to put up the point that we didn't get a chance. I really didn't get a chance to look at it. It went on the website today. The Finance Facilities Committee got it yesterday at 5 o'clock. So there was like no time.
Thank you. David, I'm sorry, just what were you saying?
I was saying one of your earlier questions is, do we have flexibility to move money around after the board settles on an amount? Yes. Well, the administration should be telling you that, but go ahead.
Okay, Dr. Chase.
Hi, Katie. How are you? Good. So we've made several budget presentations, and after each one, we've also asked the community to give us input, and we've put out widely that that email, the budget 2021 email, and just give us some feedback and let us know what your thoughts are. We've done for years, and we also did that again this year. In fact, we've received emails from some community members, and I think I sent a very lengthy one today to Lisa. So we've been receiving emails from individuals based on the various iterations of the budget, and I'm sorry you missed it. But yeah, we've been doing a similar model as we did last year, probably not with the same frequency because we didn't have as many iterations as last year, but we did. So Lisa, we posted every presentation that we did. Am I correct?
Yes, after every board meeting, there was a presentation. Laser put it
Put it up
the-
for public consumption for people to give us feedback. Sorry, Katie.
No, thank you. I know there were I understand. I was watching the presentations, but on the website this morning, Lisa, could you confirm with me when I emailed you at 7 a.m. how many presentations were on the website on the budget tab?
On
Draft
the,
one. It was only draft one presentation.
yeah, draft 2 should have been up there also.
Okay.
And I put up the detailed one after I spoke with you, Katie.
Right, midday today. And I had to sign up to make comments tonight, yesterday by 7 o'clock. So it's just, the board has this policy with Zoom that we have to sign up 24 hours ahead and we don't have information. I knew I wanted to speak on something, but I'm just putting it out there, my frustration. Okay, sorry.
No, Katie, it's okay. If you have any questions, or I know it's last minute, I will say this: if I don't know who have seen it, but if anyone has any questions, is Katie our last person?
No, Roy.
Sure. Okay. So if any questions come up, we'll come back around after Mr. Fenichel. Okay. Katie, did you have another question? Because I only wrote the 2 things, but I feel like you had one more.
No, I think I just suggested maybe you do something else when you have a public hearing. If you're gonna, I'll have the question though. When are you going back to in-person meetings?
Thank you, Katie.
I know. I'm not sure. I think that as a board, we need to discuss that, of course. I know I had Ivy sort of put together what other local, other districts are doing, so we can get a sense of how they're doing it and how many have returned. Yeah, how many have returned or how many are still, all remotely. So we need to have that as a discussion as a board for sure. I know we've had planned for like maybe having a meeting and saw if whether people wanted to come in person or not. We haven't had a majority saying yes yet, but it's definitely something that we have to discuss and make a decision on. All right, Terry, your hand is up.
Hey, Katie, quickly, I concur with you on the 4 minutes. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, that's it then. Well, Katie, you'll stay because just in case a question pops up. Trace, could you let in Mr. Fenichel?
And you said Katie staying in the meeting?
Pops in her head before when we're
Just let me know because I don't know if I'm putting people out.
I saw Roy just for a second. There we go.
Okay, he's connecting. Okay, good evening, Mr. Fenichel.
Good evening. Good to see everybody as always. So you're about to ask the public to fund your $77 million budget. Currency, engagement, You go into executive session, secret discussion.
Can't hear him.
Yes.
I think he's
Roy?
freezing.
Yeah.
Mr. Fenton,
can't
you're
hear you.
freezing.
I
Can you hear
can't
me?
hear you.
Now we can.
Can you? Can't you?
Yes, now, yes.
Can we reset it and let him?
Yeah,
start
maybe you
again?
should start over because
Example, what I'm talking about. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you might be having some technical difficulties. You come in and out, but just try again. I think he's frozen again.
Wait, he's blinking.
Mr. Furniture, may I recommend that you turn off your video? Start again from the beginning as your time has been reset to 2 minutes.
Can you hear me?
We can
Yes,
hear you.
we were saying maybe you should turn off your video. That might improve your audio quality.
How's that?
Okay. All right.
Go
Let's
for
All
it.
right.
try.
Now we're in business. This is sort
Yes.
of the communication thing that we're trying to get through here in COVID times. All right, back to business. So you're about to ask the public to fund your $77 million budget. Well, we have a right to know how you decide to spend our money. Yet when we ask for transparency, community engagement, you go into executive session and you have secret discussions about leadership change, and you deny emergency funding requests, and then you assure us those things are not related, but we just have to trust you because you're not having those deliberations in public. We know you care about our children. We care about our children too, those with kids in the district and those whose taxes pay for them. And we thank you for your service. We appreciate that. But service means accountability. So you shouldn't get defensive when we ask questions. Your job is to put your egos aside and be willing to change your mind when circumstances change. Once the pandemic hit, your focus should have been on getting us through the pandemic by stabilizing leadership, funding the opening of our schools, two things you voted against. We can't change past mistakes, but can you promise today to focus on your own website's 3 top areas of focus? Your focus area 1 is updating district facilities. You had that chance last year. Didn't happen, you voted no. Hopefully we get to a yes this year. Focus area 2, expand stakeholder engagement. You continue to limit stakeholder engagement until after you already decided things, and then you put out feedback polls. I'm rushing today because when the pandemic hit, you cut from 4 minutes to 2 minutes. No good reason for that. Instead of expanding stakeholder engagement, you've expanded your lawyer engagement. You would not even put the district change decision on hold until we can get kids back in school, and then you could change leadership once everyone's back in school. Your third focus area is stabilized leadership. Now, I understand you wrote that before the pandemic, but once pandemic hit, stabilize leadership, get the kids back, and then you can make whatever change you want. Now we're playing catch up, as you heard from all the concerned parents tonight, and we're trying to get back in school full time. We need you to promise to focus on transparently engaging with the public at all times.
Thank you, Mr. Fenchel, for your comments.
Okay, Antoinette, did you still need Katie McGee?
Katie, if something came, to mind in regards to the budget.
I was just gonna say, I'm sure Ms. Raymond she's going to present, right, tonight. So I'm sure you're gonna include this, but I know you lowered the amount from the first draft, and I'm just really wanna know what was changed or cut and the rationale for those changes from draft 1 to draft 2. That would be great if you just make sure to include that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Katie.
Okay, are you done with everything, Antoinette? Because that's all of our speakers.
Yep, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Okay. All right. It is anticipated that we will adjourn to executive session. Can I get a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss the employment history of particular persons being considered for the board or board action this evening?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Discussion.
Yes.
Should we let our architects go?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Fred and Jim for joining us, and Jason also for joining us tonight. We appreciate you providing some additional information and updating the community and working with Lisa to get everything all together.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Have a great.
Take care, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Antoinette,
Yes.
I'm going to have to switch rooms now, so I might get popped off.
Okay. David, is that the only discussion?
That was the only discussion I had.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We're going to executive session. Tanya, do what you need to do. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay. Thank you, Ivy. Okay. So Ivy, I have to withdraw the co-host, right?
Correct.
Okay. All
Am
right.
I letting Adam into the room?
Sure. Let me get everybody out.
Am I letting Adam Kleinberg in?
Yeah, hold on for a second. All right. Thank you, everyone, for your extreme patience. We are going to move forward. Not only is extreme patience, but our apologies for the length of the executive session. We're going to move forward now with our policy presentation. We discussed this prior. We have policy amendments and one new policy to be considered for board adoption at the May 25th, 2021 meeting concerning participation in graduation ceremonies and activities, student suspension, alcohol, tobacco, drugs, and other substances, concussion management, and peripheral intervention strategies. Copies of these policies will be available in the district clerk's office and on the website. All comments concerning these policies should be submitted in writing to the Board of Education. Okay, next up we have the superintendent's report.
Good evening, community members. Good evening, board. I want to thank the community members again for their patience and understanding. I know the hour is late, and I am going to ask that you just bear with me for a few because I do have a couple of really important announcements that I'm pretty sure that you all want to hear. Before I get started, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the students of Greenburgh Central School District. They don't always get acknowledgement, and unfortunately this year, we did not have an opportunity to feature any of our bright, beautiful, brilliant students. Despite the challenges of the pandemic, I have to say that our kids are doing well. And so any students who stayed up, brave enough to stay up, or because I do know quite a few students listen to the meetings after they're archived, I want you to know how proud I am of you. I want you to know how proud so many people are of you. We understand that you are dealing with unfinished education. I wouldn't call it learning loss. It's unfinished education, and we're going to do our best to make sure that we provide you all with the interventions, the love, and the support you deserve. You are always in our minds, and you're always in our hearts. So I want to commend the students of Greenburgh Central School District, and I also want to tell you to keep up the great work. We see what you're doing. We know how hard you're trying, and you guys are thriving through this pandemic. My second announcement. And very shortly, Ms. Raymond is going to share with you the 2021-22 school budget. I'd like to thank Ms. Raymond for leading this effort in terms of putting the budget together. But I do want the community to know that it is a team effort. So it started with the principals, asking the principals what they would like, asking the principals about their wishes and what it is that they need in the buildings. And then it goes to central office. The central office administrators, the directors also played a role. Our assistant superintendent for curriculum instruction personnel played a role. Our board members played a role. And I want to thank the community for playing a role, for responding to the email, for giving us feedback. So this is definitely a team effort. And I just want to thank everyone who's been involved. I'd like to remind the community that the budget vote for the 2021-22 school year is on May 18th. From 7 a.m. until 9 p.m. And I am made to understand that it will be an in-person vote at Woodlands Middle High School. There will be a budget hearing May 4th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. And appears that it's going to be a virtual space for that meeting. Next. So many people have asked about summer planning. You know, what is the district going to do for summer school? We've presented a proposal to the board as it relates to summer school. We're still in the process of truly defining what that summer school option will look like. We believe that in the next couple of maybe days or perhaps 2 or 3 weeks, parents will get information about summer school offerings here at Greenburgh Central School District. So I do ask that you look out for that. This year, we know we are going to make sure that summer school does address the whole child. So it's not just an academic program. We are working very diligently to address the social and the emotional needs of our students, to give them a nice transition into going back to school in the fall without interruption. That is the hope and that is the anticipation. So please look for that. While we're talking about transition, this evening, community, you received a letter from the district indicating that we have received your survey results. And we thank you so much for participating in the survey. And overwhelmingly so, you all have elected to send your children back to school for full-time 5 days a week instruction. And so the district will accommodate that, keeping in mind that the new guidance that we received last week indicates that elementary schools can operate at 3 feet distance, whereas our middle and high school will operate at 6 feet distance. We specified the guidelines in the letter that you received. And although my letter was lengthy, it's important that you have all of the information, you know what you're walking into. We are poised to welcome our students back, for those who elect to come back full time on April 26th, that's Monday. That's for our pre-K through 6 students. And for those students who are at Woodlands Middle High School, we look forward to welcoming those students back full time on May the 3rd. So please pay attention to the letter. There's a very important task that you must do in order to make this work for everyone. And the letter clearly specifies, parents, you must opt in if you are going to send your child to school full time. Opting in helps us with a few things. It helps us to make classroom arrangements to prepare for capacity. It helps us with food services, and it helps us with transportation. The letter clearly indicates that you must opt in by April 22nd. That is this Friday. And I know I'm giving you a short window, but the administration team needs time to prepare for your students, for your children. And we didn't want to waste any more time. So April 22nd at 5 o'clock, you have the list of designees that you need to contact. Now in your email, please make sure that in the subject section, you type in opt in, so that the administrator will know to look for your email indicating that your child is opting in, okay? You will get a phone blast about this as well, but I suggest if you haven't received my letter, check your school messenger email. It is there. It is also going to be posted on our website. The letter will also be on our social media as well. So Thursday, April 22nd, 5 p.m. is your deadline to opt in. I just want to remind our community that COVID-19 is still a threat, Please continue to exercise those mitigating practices to avoid the transmission and the spread. Your help will help us to keep our schools open, our schools safe and healthy for everyone. Please remember to mask up and wash your hands often. Community, thank you so much for indulging me. Have a great evening, and we look forward to seeing our elementary school students next Monday all together, and we look forward to welcoming our middle high school students May 3rd all together. Be well, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Chase. Okay, we have the assistant.
Antoinette?
I'm sorry, yes?
It's Tracy. I have a question.
Sure.
For Dr. Chase. Thank you for sending that the email with and opening the schools for the kids. I have a question because I received part of the survey asked about the testing. It asked if I would be comfortable, I'm probably messing it up because I can't remember the wording, but be comfortable with my child being tested or something like that. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So the district does have an option for random testing. We're not quite there yet, but when we do get there, we just want to make sure that we have the data and the information from parents to hear about their willingness for random testing. We know that one of the strategies to keep school open, especially larger school districts, is the random testing of students and staff. And so that's something that we're exploring, and we just wanted to make sure that we have we have some idea as to where our families stand with random testing.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Lisa Raymond, in regards to the Assistant Superintendent Business Report.
Thank you, Madam President. I have two items. The first is the February Treasurer's Report. We began, the beginning balance in the general fund was $38,886,708. We received revenue of $17,671,280 and dispersed out during the month of February $5,552,576, ending the month of February with a balance of $51,005,411. Next is the budget presentation, and Laser, if you could put that up for me.
Terry, do you have a question before Lisa gets started?
Yeah, yes, I do. It was on the treasurer's report.
Okay.
It was a short thing. So, and this might be either for Lisa or Amy. I'm not quite sure. So,
Amy is not here, Terry, just to let you know.
Oh, okay. So, well, maybe it's only for Lisa then. So, Lisa, on the warrant report, you know, what I've tried to do recently, can you make it searchable? So, obviously somebody scans it in and it gets scanned in as a PDF, but it's not searchable. You know, you can search a PDF by going Control F, put in what you're trying to find, and it'll call it up. But the one that we receive in our packet isn't searchable. Can you facilitate making that searchable?
Yes, I'll look into that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Laser, could you put that presentation back up again for me? Okay, so this is the 21-22 proposed budget, and I began this presentation with the revenue section to explain where the money is coming from. Okay, so we received more in state aid once the numbers were produced by the governor and the legislature after they came to consensus for a budget. And we're going to receive $5,580,208, which is $625,918 more than this school year. By receiving this additional state aid, that would produce a tax levy of $62,453,090, which is a decrease from the draft 2 budget proposal where we were asked to get the tax levy to 2% or less. This will make the tax levy 1.24%. So we are proposing new monies for the budget of $73,182, or a 2.59% increase. To that number, we need to add back the money that we are bringing back from the capital fund, okay? In order to use these monies in the capital fund that were designated for different projects that have either been completed or set aside for future projects, we need to transfer these monies back to the general fund and repurpose them specifically for phase one. The following amounts are in the capital fund that will be brought back. As we stated in the public hearing, we're going to bring $357,500 from the repair reserve to cover repairs that were identified in our architect's proposal. In the 2018-19 school year, there was excess fund balance over the 4% allowed that was categorized as assigned for future capital projects. The remaining money is $1,472,243, and that will be brought back to the general fund to be repurposed for phase one. In the 2019-20 external audit report, it was noted that there were 6 projects that were completed in the capital fund. These funds were earmarked for campus consolidation, Woodlands Middle School, High School public address system, fire alarms, emergency boiler work, and water main work. Since these projects are completed, any excess funds must come back to the general fund, which we will bring back $328,424 that will go towards the new project. In the 1920 and the 2021 budget process, interfund capital transfer money was budgeted for future projects. The balance from 1920 was $1,300,000, and the remainder after we did the 3 playgrounds this year is $1,001,170 from the 2021 transfer, which we will bring back to the general fund and repurpose it for this project. So the total of all of these different parts, all of these different pots of money equals $4,459,337. We will transfer these funds to the general fund's appropriated fund balance, meaning it is being recategorized and earmarked to help fund the proposed phase one project. These monies will not impact the tax levy, since they have already been part of previous budgets. In order to be transparent, we need to increase the appropriated fund balance on the revenue side, which we are doing here. And then we will increase transfers to capital fund on the expenditure side to make this transaction balance. So the budget will then be $77,459,519. In addition, through the state budget process, we will be receiving monies for the American Rescue Plan and the emergency relief funds, which for Greenberg will total just under $3 million, which will be accounted for in the federal funds. So this budget that we are proposing is the general fund, and these this $2.97 million has to be accounted for in the federal funds, which we will do once we get all of the guidelines. Next slide, please. So the major expenses by category are listed here. In any school budget, salaries and benefits are always the largest item. And for Greenberg, for next year is just a little more than 70% of the budget. And then that's followed by transportation, BOCE services, operations and maintenance, and contractual items, with all the other supplies and materials, equipment, textbooks, tuition, debt service, all following in after. Next. The major expenses can also be broken down by function, and there are 6 functions. They are all listed here and shows you how the budget that we are proposing is broken down by each one of these functions. The next slide will show you the breakdown of these functions. The first is the general support, where you'll find all of the expenses for the Board of Education, which also includes the district clerk's office and the district meeting, which is also known as the budget vote. Central administration is where the superintendent and the business office functions are budgeted, operations and maintenance of all of our campuses, the central data processing under technology, and special items. Under special items, it includes legal fees, BOCES administrative costs, judgments, any refund of property taxes, school association dues, and records management. So we are proposing that the general support will decrease by 0.55%, and that was due to some of the things that we modified from draft 1 to draft 2, such as we cut out some travel and conferences for the board and some food expenses. There were BOCES expenditures that we decreased. And under operations and maintenance, we analyzed utilities and were able to find savings there, and other contractual items that are being put into the phase 1 project. The next slide will show the instruction portion of the major expenses, and the instruction is the largest function. It includes administration, which is for the principals and directors' offices, curriculum development, and professional development, regular instruction, special education, instructional support, and pupil personnel, which encompasses the library, technology, occupational therapy, speech therapy, education TV, attendance, guidance, health services, psychologists, social workers, extracurricular activities, and athletics. In addition, what also is budgeted here are for textbooks, software, hardware, health and welfare billing, and tuition for out-of-district placements. We are proposing a 3.63% increase in our instructional lines. In here is also included a math specialist, an additional occupational therapist that is needed, another high school teacher, and a secretarial position. The next slide shows pupil transportation, which is broken out between district and contracted. Under district is where we budget for our director of transportation and his office, our routing software, any equipment that is needed, and fuel expenses. The contractual is for services provided by Royal Coach to transport our students to each one of our campuses, and for transportation of students attending one of the approximately 47 other schools that we transport to. This proposed budget is a 4.85% increase, which also includes the estimated CPI for May, which will be released in June, for which transportation contracts can increase yearly. The next slide is employee benefits, which is the second largest function outside, right after instruction. The benefits here include retirement expenses for administrators, teachers, and support staff. These are based on the annual salaries and a percentage determined by each agency. It encompasses the employee retirement system and the teacher retirement system. Under employee benefits, we also have to budget for the employee share of Social Security, workers' compensation, life insurance, unemployment, disability, health and dental insurance, and union welfare expenses. We're proposing a 3.72% increase in employee benefits. The last function is the debt and interfund transfers. Under debt, next slide, Laser. We have budgeted for a tax anticipation note in case we need to take one during the tax collection period. Transfers to the federal funds will remain the same, and there are no transfers for next year in the debt service since we have made our last payment in February of 2021. We are proposing once again to transfer $1.3 million to the capital fund, which will help fund phase 1, the capital project. Okay, the repurposed funds that we have previously spoken about, the 4.45 million plus this 1.3 million would give us a little more than $5.7 million that will be earmarked for the capital construction phase one. And again, by transferring this 4.45 million back to the general fund and then back to the capital fund will have absolutely no impact on the taxpayers or the tax levy. Next slide. So what will be done with the 1.3 million? As I said, it will become part of phase one and combined with the $4.45 million for the monies that will be available. The capital project phase one, these items listed for each one of the schools, I took right off of BBS's presentation when they did the presentation March 16th to the board on what the $5.135 million would all encompass. The next slide shows our plans for the repair reserve. There will be a separate referendum at the budget vote to allow excess funds to be placed in the repair reserve. This also will have there will be no cost to the taxpayers to do this, and it is recommended that this referendum may possibly be put on the vote annually. The next slide I included was to show what the impact to the taxpayers would be. So we're proposing a tax levy of $62,453,090, which is again a 1.24% increase in the levy. I obtained the assessment per the town at March 9th, which has not been finalized, but we know what it is as of that date. And I came up with a tax rate of $15.98 per 1,000, or a 5-cent increase over this year. So if you look at the example there, on an average assessment of property of $495,600, a sample tax bill would increase by $23.50. The next slide is just a recap of what we've just spoken of. We are definitely under the tax cap. We're proposing a budget of new money of $73,182, adding the reclassified or repurposing capital money of $4,459,337 for a budget of $77,459,519. And again, the tax levy would be $62,453,090, which is a 1.24% increase. The next slide will show you what a contingent budget would be. Under a contingent budget, you cannot raise property taxes any higher than the last year that the budget was approved, which would have been this year. So what that means is that our tax levy would decrease by $764,063. All non-contingent items would have to be removed from the budget, and that entails most equipment, any rental of office equipment, such as like we lease our copiers, if they were up for renewal, some salary increases. If you're not covered by a collective bargaining unit, you do not get an increase, and any capital interfund transfers. So a contingent budget for Greenberg would be $70,996,105. And the next two slides just is another reminder. As Dr. Chase said, May 4th is the budget hearing at 6:30 during the budget work section. And the budget vote is May 18th at the Woodlands Middle High School from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. And that's it. If anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Lisa. Tracy?
Yes, I do. I want to ask the question why last month I asked that if you would please send me the cost of the CSC, CPSC chair position for the last 2 years. And it was supposed to be in my packet. It never came. So evidently,
Miss Carey, that was in the, I did, well, when we sent the detailed budget, it was one of those items in that budget. I will definitely get that to Dr. Chase so she can get that to you. Just that specific number. I'll get it for you for this year and for last year.
Okay, I'd appreciate that very much.
Yeah.
Now, I would like, I beg your pardon?
Not a problem. I'll get that to you.
Okay. One of the things I would like to just talk about for a minute is for the past 3 years, I have been talking about the fact that I felt that there was no need for the position of CSC CPSC chair. For the many years I have worked in the Greenberg Central School District, there has always been a precedent set where people such as social workers, psychologists, speech pathologists, teachers, and other specials for the special ed program would take on the role of CSC CPSC chair at a stipend. And I'm hoping that that position will be reconsidered and possibly able to, we can be able to talk about putting the position back where it belongs in the special ed program, encompassing those people such as social workers and et cetera, who I feel have been over the years working with them well qualified to do the job. So that's where I stand on that. Thank you.
Tracy?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I do think it's possible for definitely as a social worker, I know the social workers, but also the psychologists. Ms. Carey, I think, can also do some of the CSE, CPSE chair the meetings. Am I correct by that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You hear?
Antoinette, you're muted.
I'm sorry, Dr. Chase?
Is someone asking me a question?
Yes, I'm sorry. I was saying, am I correct that also the psychologist, definitely, I know the social workers and the psychologists can also do that.
That's possible, but I don't want to get into personnel matters per se in this forum, but there's a reason why things were structured the way they are.
Tracy?
And maybe if you could direct me just to what area this would be covered, because I know it's been brought up before about our special needs program at the middle high school. And there's a life skills program where we have various different appliances and living conditions, so that living setup, excuse me, not conditions, living setup where we can teach our children how to take care of themselves, cook, do certain things so that they can have skills for life skills. And I'm wondering if there's a place in the budget that goes to kind of updating those facilities for them, as well as making sure that they have all of the up-to-date things that they would need. Is there a line item that I can find that?
Lisa, that would come out of supplies, and then that would also come out of a special ed grant, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, so.
I'd have to look up the code.
Right.
But I can get that to you also.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is it possible just to make sure that we have some extra money kind of going to that, especially during COVID?
It will be. You know, a district is determined how they treat their most vulnerable students. And, you know, we've always prioritized what our students with special needs need. And I hope that energy will continue to go on.
Madam Chair? Hello?
Hold on, Ms. Carey. I'm just trying to get to unmute. Terry did have his hand up before you, Ms. Carey, and then I'm gonna come back to you. Ms. Carey, you
hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, thank you.
Terry?
Thank you. So, Dr. Chase, in response to what Mrs. Carey was proposing, I know you said that's starting to get into personnel. I'm wondering if you could give us in broad strokes why you structure it that way, number one. And then number two, not to belabor the point, and this is for you, Antoinette, if after Dr. Chase explains it or feels comfortable explaining it in open session, if we could just get a consensus for the board. I mean, I don't want to just leave it out there that, two people, says X, but, 5 people don't say anything and then things start to get changed. So if we could, number one, if it's possible for Dr. Chase to talk in very broad strokes about why she sets it up the way it is set up. And then number two, if necessary, just get a consensus from the board if we want to stay with what Dr. Chase is recommending.
Okay, so the way things are set up, the way things were set up was to make sure that our clinicians remain at the school where they are needed, and we're not pulling them when we have CPSE, CSC meetings. We brought in an additional consultant to help with the CPSE, CSC meetings. We're finding that in our district, like many other districts, we're having more recommendations at the early childhood level more than any other time. And we found this to be very, very useful in efficiencies in terms of our district. As you know, part of our corrective action also requires that there are certain protocols and procedures that the district must make and must take. And we are doing that by maintaining that particular position.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Williams, did I answer your question?
Yes, you answered my question. Yeah, I think you answered it. Yes, you answered my question. And and we can have some debate about this, but in the interest of time, ultimately, if a majority of the board wants to change it, then so be it. Excuse me, I have the floor. Excuse me, I have the floor.
Ms. Carey, hold on for 1 second.
Thank you. So again, what I'm saying is this: if our other colleagues who claim to have experience in this area want to add some value and share some things with us, so be it. But then ultimately, if we could just get a consensus, and if we want to stay with what Dr. Chase is saying, or if we want to get some other model, fine. But at least let's get that consensus and move on, so that we don't spend too much time doing this. Thank you.
Ms. Carey.
Our special ed children need all the time that they can get to make sure they have the programs that are going to give them the best educational experience going. I'm very shocked to hear that when we talk about our students, it should be cut short. But when we talk about other meaningless, in my estimation, things, it can go on for hours and hours. Now, Madam Chair, the reason why I said this is because there is a salary of $900+ a day for the position of CSE, CPSE chair. It is my feeling that that money could be used in a much more expedient way, hiring an occupational therapist for the middle high school on a regular basis to replace the appliances that are old, dirty, and nasty, which I have said before. I have spoken about those appliances for a couple of years now. And I have said we need to get them because our children need to learn the life skills that will help them to maintain a happy life, quality of life, to be able to make a sandwich, to be able to make up their beds, to be able to wash their clothes, be able to wash dishes. These are things that are life skills that our special ed children should be able to have privy to. That is my concern. My concern is not taking up time when we talk about kids. My thing is not listening to a person who feels that all that what they say is the gospel and nobody else has any meaning. These are our children we're talking about. And I want to make sure that they get the best that they can get. And it really grieves me that people will take the time to put our students down when they feel time is short, but can take hours to speak on to what I said before, non-trivial things. So, Madam Chair, you can take your a consensus if you want to, however you want to, but however this board decides to go, it is not going to stop the fact that our special ed children need all that they can get and all of the support they can get from the adults who have been given the opportunity to be trustees for this district.
So
Thank you, Ms.
if I,
Harry.
thank you, Antoinette. Thank you. So let me just clarify something, a few things. First of all, I think we might have violated some board norms there in Mrs. Carey's response, but that's neither here nor there. Let me just be clear. I am not, what I said, and if I wasn't clear, because it's late and I know I was kind of hesitating, I was looking to hear from the other folks who were advocating for a change, and then we could all decide. You know, just make the suggestion that you made. That's all I was asking for, Mrs. Carey. But at the end of the day, you're not in the buildings every day. You're no longer a professional in this area. I personally, I am going to, excuse me, I am speaking. I did not interrupt you, Mrs. Carey.
At the same time stop.
Please, Mrs. Carey, don't violate the board norms.
If you
violate the board norms, Mrs. Carey. Antoinette, please tell her to be quiet.
If both of you would please stop.
Please, Antoinette, take control of the meeting.
Both of you, please stop. Both.
So I think I had the floor. And so what I'm saying is that let's hear, I want to hear the other side or the other expertise. I'm just saying that lacking somebody who is doing this daily, I'm not going to necessarily agree with that. And the last comment I'll make is, and this might sound a little odd, defending Antoinette here, but you know, Mrs. Carey, you said that a lot of time was taken up. Well, you know, the president is managing the meeting, and quite frankly, it's people like you and other people who take up a lot of time. So if you don't want a lot of time taken up, don't take up a lot of time. Don't interrupt. Let the president do her job. You're muted, Antoinette.
Could everybody pause for 3 seconds? It is 11:26. And what this conversation is 100% important. Ms. Carey, do you have anything else to add to what you were saying?
I would not even venture another word in the ears of such a person that put me down just a few minutes ago. No. Shows where his respect is.
Terry, did you make your point?
I would just add one point that to Mrs. Carey, I did not mean to put you down. I just wanted to get your thoughts. That was what I was saying. Get your thoughts, maybe get Tracy's thoughts. God help me, I don't know why I would say that, but get her thoughts as well so that we can all be informed and then we can all move forward. I mean, we don't have to, if you say your point, and I understand it, because if nothing else I've learned over the years, you're very clear in what you say. Let me then decide what I want to do, or let the board decide what they want to do. But there's no need to, basically that's all I was saying is, tell us your point, Tracy tell us her point, and then a majority of us will decide whether we want to follow the model that Dr. Chase gave us or the model that you're proposing. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
What is he doing? I'm not proposing anything. I'm giving my opinion, which I'm entitled to. What's wrong with these people?
Okay, so, Dr. Chase, you shared your thoughts and how it has been working in the district. Other board members have shared, you know, their thoughts about how it's been working in the district. Any thoughts on how to move forward in regards to this matter? Do we want to look into changing, you know, how this work is done from how it is being done currently? And if I'm not saying it, catching, I think Tracy or Miss Carrie, if I'm not capturing what your thoughts are, please, you know, correct me. David, I did see your hand, but if I'm not catching that properly, please correct me.
I never said that we had to talk about it now. I said we should have a discussion about it. Okay?
Okay.
Everybody else is taking my words and doing what they want to do with them. I never said we had to discuss it now. I never said it was, you know, that it was something that had to be done right this moment, but it had to be talked about.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Carrie. Tracy?
I was looking at the line by line. Am I correct that we're not hiring any additional social workers? I don't know if y'all can hear me, if I'm frozen.
No.
I just know it's silent, so I don't know.
No, there are no additional social worker positions added to this budget.
So I'm a little concerned just because social workers are like licensed by the state, which I talked about before. And I know there's a big push for social emotional learning. I see training on here, which is great. But why are we not providing additional staff for support? Was it to keep things within budget, or?
Dr. Chase, I'm not sure you're frozen.
Yeah.
No, I'm not frozen.
Okay, I'm
but,
sorry.
You know, I want to be able to have a productive conversation about these matters, and sometimes 11:30 at night isn't the most ideal time to do it. Let's be honest, right? We've been sitting here for almost 5 hours in a meeting, and you know, I don't think it's fair to our viewers. But to answer your question, we did hire social workers last year. We do have adequate staff to provide SEL for our students, and social workers, I think it's great to hire them, but we also have other certificated staff who will also be well trained to provide those social emotional needs for our students. So we have teachers who are well trained, who are going to be well versed in it. We're going to have our psychologists who are well versed. We have other support staff who will also provide those needs for our students. We just don't want to hire staff because it's the thing to do, or because the next neighboring district is hiring 8. We're going to do what the district needs, and we're not going to just hire people just for the purpose of hiring them. The one thing I'm going to warn this board is that be careful how you use your federal grant money that's coming to the district, because you know we have these pie in the sky ideas, but remember the money is very limited. The disbursement is only for a couple of years, and you need to be able to maintain what you put in place. I'd much rather keep my staff the way it is, train them well, as opposed to hiring a bunch of people, and then I won't be able to sustain it later on. So I think that we have a rationale for why we've done what we've done, and I'm very, very comfortable with the budget that I'm presenting to the community.
Lastly, would it be, so if we did not have that CPSC, I can't think of the line, if we did not have that staff line money, whatever the total is per year, would we need to replace that person with a psychologist, social worker, or not? And if not, could we fulfill the role with the current staff that we have?
No, that's why we brought the person in.
Right.
We brought the person in to be an additional support in our special ed department. And that position is functioning well. I'm going to share with you that I'm starting to get a little uncomfortable with the CPSE, CSE chairperson, because I am flirting with personnel matters because there is a singleton in that position.
Okay.
We've already identified the salary, we've already identified the position, and I am uncomfortable having that conversation in public forum. I'm happy at another time to come back into executive session to speak about that particular position. But I will say that this conversation is, I think it's dancing in an area that we don't want to do at 11:30 at night.
Can I say one thing though?
You said
Social
what?
workers, social workers do have to do additional training for their state licensure, which is in addition to their New York State certification. So social workers are good people.
No, they're great people, and I don't want my words to be misconstrued. I think they're wonderful, but I'm not going to hire a bunch of social workers and I have no need for them just to hire them, right? We're going to make sound decisions and we're going to use these taxpayer dollars right. We have a community that we are involved. We have to be able to prove to our community that we're using their money properly. And so I think social workers are great. I have a lot of them in my family. I think the work that they do is wonderful. But I also know that when we hire new people, they have to get acclimated to our kids. We have existing people who are doing wonderfully with our children. Our children are able to relate to them, and hopefully this money will be used properly for additional social emotional support and learning. That's the hope. And then the district can continue to move forward in educating the child.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
So again, going back to, does anybody want to do, does anybody want to move forward with the suggestion earlier?
What suggestion is that?
Ms. Carey, you already shared that you didn't want to do any, you just was sharing your mind. I said it, you know, previously
right.
about making changes. Anybody else? I mean, unless you're changing what you said, but Ms. Carey, you said you didn't want to, you weren't being specific about doing something.
Right, I'm just asking.
Okay. So hearing none, we move forward. The committee reports. David.
I do not have a report, but I can say that the next Finance and Facilities Committee meeting will be this Thursday at April 22nd at 6:30 p.m. We will go over some areas of the budget in more detail. We'll also have a facilities update. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ashley?
I don't have a committee report ready to go for this evening, but I did want to ask, at what point in the agenda do you want me to reference the governance committee recommendations that I sent out a few times already that we wanted to discuss?
You can go right now, Ashley.
Okay. So the first thing I wanted to bring up was the draft Greenberg Central School District Board Handbook that the governance committee had put together. You know, we spent significant time on that. The governance and policy committee is at a point where we feel it's a solid recommendation, but obviously we want the board's approval and thought processes if we need to make any adjustments before we send it to legal for further review.
Page 5 of the under what can I do to get up to speed? There's a reference to a philosophy statement. I don't know if that is supposed to be the core belief statement, or is that something different?
Page 5, hold on one second.
At least it's my page 5. What can I do to get up to speed? It says second paragraph.
David, I'm looking at it. Which specific line are you referencing?
The second paragraph, it's the second line of the second paragraph. This can be accomplished in a number of ways, including but not limited to the review of this handbook, the GCSD policies, which are posted on the website, the philosophy statement. I remember the old version of the website had that. Maybe they just moved it somewhere and I don't know where it is, which guides our goals and mission. So I want to know if is that now core beliefs, or is that actually there's a philosophy statement somewhere and I just don't know where it is on the website?
From my recollection during the conversation, that would be core beliefs.
Okay, so you can tweak that. Then on page 8, anybody have anything before page 8? Okay. Bottom of page 8, review of policies. It is the responsibility of the board to review the policies of the district. The board has established a policy committee, which is the entire board. As the writing and our understanding that each board committee will review, each individual board committee will review policies that fall within the scope of that committee. Each board committee will make recommendations and submit it back to the policy committee, which is a full board. I think our, correct me if I'm wrong, we had a flow chart, but I don't think the individual committees were in that flow chart. So I'm thinking that if our process is going to be, I guess first we flip the process so the administration goes first, right? So then it sounds like what should happen is the administration should farm things out to the different board committees, and then they'll come back for final review. And that step wasn't in the process before. So if that's what your recommendation is, then we need to just document that elsewhere and make sure that that's our real process. Is that, did you guys talk that over, or is that adopted from somebody else? Okay. Okay, so I'm good with what's in the document if we're okay with doing that. I'm fine with doing that. We just need to change what we actually do to match this. And then I think at the very end of the document, there's going to be, I've got a few wording changes I'll just send to you. Membership in committees, back on page 21, it looks like membership of committees is determined at the annual reorganizational meeting. Now, we've always figured out who's on what committees at a board retreat, because usually we dicker over it and it takes hours. And if we try and push that into the reorg meeting, unless we're really, really proactive, we're not going to have that lined up in time. Is that what you want to go to? You want to make sure that as of the reorg meeting, all the committee assignments are done? You guys talk that out?
The point behind that, David, was just to make sure that we have a process that we follow consistently. To your point, we've kind of gone back and forth over the history. We're trying to narrow this down so that it can be a little bit more of a streamlined process.
Okay, so you do want us to have some kind of meeting before, or maybe the June 28th, the work session, the June work session, to try and figure out who's on the committees for next year, or how are you thinking if we were going to do that, or do we have a retreat at that point?
When we talked about it as a committee, I don't think we went into that level of detail, but we can go either way. Remember, the concept behind this handbook really is just to get a new board member quickly up to speed and give them a high level overview as to how GCSD works, along with best practices of how NISBA states we should follow, et cetera, et cetera. So we didn't iron out every single detail. We can discuss it as a board in a future meeting if we want to nail down a specific meeting.
Okay, so that should be on an issues list, and we can talk about it when it's not 11:42 at night. Then Schedule A, school board meetings, order of business.
Page, David?
Page 22. Okay. There's some interesting sections that weren't there before. The meeting may include, and it includes something called board president's remarks, which that would be interesting. The way we have a superintendent's report, I guess the board president could talk about something for a little while. And then there's in the additional steps on the bottom of page 22 and the top of page 23, it talks about how we break up our agenda and what's in it. And I think we should farm that out to Ivy, because I think she has a certain definition for what action items are, I don't think we use consent agenda as a term, but things are broken down into certain major categories. And we may want to ask her for some changes to the latter steps of this listing to correspond with our actual practice.
Okay, thank you for that.
And I think that's it for me.
Okay.
I don't want to monopolize too much time. Anybody else have anything?
Tanya?
Yes, I actually had a far more general question for you, Ashley, which is when you get on the board, you undergo this training and you get all sorts of handbooks, describing pretty much what this document describes. And so I'm just kind of curious, what is particular to this one that we needed on top of everything that is already provided by NYSBA to board members?
Sure. So I guess the best way to explain it succinctly, because it is 11:45 at night, is this is tailored a little more directly to the best practices that we follow at GCSD. So if you go and you look at the NYSBA manual, you look at all that, that has generalized information, which is great, but you won't have the context that we're giving you here, such as some of the unions we have involved here, like the GTF, all that type of GCSD specific policies and processes we follow. That's the goal behind this document. It's really to hand this to a new board member, and they basically have I guess an abridged version of all that other data they got out there, but customized to GCSD.
Okay, and I assume that it conforms to NYSBA's rules. I mean, that there are no contradictions. I mean, I couldn't, I didn't do a line by line comparison, but I am making the assumption that they are coherent, right?
Sure. So just for full transparency, this product is actually taken in part from NYSBA and part from other school district board member handbooks. Basically, it was a aggregation of various different school districts as well as the NYSBA materials. We sat down, we went through all of it, we compared notes and pulled things out of certain documents that made sense to us, and we went through it a few times. So yes, it does follow the NYSBA best practices, at least as of the time we wrote it. Whether that's changed between then and now, since it's been a while, that's possible, but it's a pretty good representation.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Sure.
For me, I need, I know we've had it for a while, but I do need additional time to look at it or to continue to look through it.
Okay.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, we've talked about this for a while, so of getting something like this. But there are like quick things that Ashley, you had sent in an email that I think we could run through real quickly. One of them was, this is from the committee. I'm sorry, Ashley, unless you want to read through it, but one was the committee recommends the board president remind everyone of the board norms prior to the start of each meeting. That was one. So we can get quick consensus on how people feel about that. Anybody feels either way about it?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you're referencing.
The board norms?
The board norms?
Yeah, there's a board norms document that the committee was recommending the board president remind everyone of that at the beginning of each meeting, just to level set and remind everybody of the rules that we've kind of agreed to follow.
Yeah, I had a number of comments on that, but I see Terry's hand is up, so maybe he'd like to go first.
Terry.
Why, thank you, Tanya. So on that particular one, look, my issue with that one is it's all good. All of those things are good, but they have to be enforceable. And, just a few minutes ago, they were violated. you know, we had an extended executive session in part because the board norms were violated. You know, and this came up in the meeting, that we have to find a way to have this enforceable. And actually, one of the things we said, and one of the things I brought up, is an idea that Mrs. Carey said years ago, when she mentioned a parliamentarian. She called it a sergeant at arms, but somebody to remind the board and its members when perhaps we go off track, because obviously, you know, it's difficult for the president to do all the time. If the vice president isn't helping out, you know, it just you know, continues to spiral out of control. I mean, you know, the board norms are great, but unless we enforce them, they're useless.
So thank you. Tanya, you said you had something,
Yeah.
and then Tracy.
So I had issues with specifically, I mean, I think that this is kind of a nice idealistic document, but my comments are about points 2, 4, and 9. And I think maybe it goes a little bit to what to Terry's point, which is that I just really don't see how these in particular are really enforceable. So so I'm not against board norms, but I think I'd like to see something a little more succinct, that we would really agree on, you know, as adults in a boardroom, you know, to stick to, and including, for example, this one, which is really an interesting one, which is to agree to confine each of your comments to no more than 2 to 3 minutes. I think I'm already over that, on agenda discussion items. Some of them I didn't understand, like communicate all decisions to all stakeholders who are affected by your decision in a timely manner. I wasn't sure if that went like each board member or the board as a whole, or some of them were really not clear to me. And the first one was avoid communicating one position in private conversations and a different position in public communications.
Yeah, that one is.
So basically, I just had a number of issues with these. Some of them I didn't really completely understand. Others I just didn't think were really enforceable.
Okay.
Can I explain a little further?
Sure, Ashley.
So just to clarify, Tanya, the recommendation from the committee isn't, these board norms are already what were previously approved by previous boards. The whole document essentially is there. The recommendation was just to have the president basically reiterate this at the beginning of each meeting. That was the first piece. And the second piece was specific to something you just referenced, which is touching on items number 8 and 9. The second recommendation was to, and let me go back and make sure I get this right, to remove item number 8 and change item number 9 to be a 5-minute limit for each matter. And the idea there is just to try to ensure that we're efficient in our meetings and that we don't go off into a really long conversation. Because if you do the math, as we've seen, right, if every one of us starts having a long conversation on one topic, we could be here forever. So that was the idea behind those 2 recommendations. The doc itself, the board norms, we didn't make any changes to that. That's pre-existing. If we'd like to look at that and revisit that again, we can, but we didn't discuss any of that. All we're asking for, all the committee's recommending at this point is just that the board president remind everyone of the board norms. That's what I think President Antoinette Darnus-Citron was asking about, if there was consensus there. And then the second thing would be the recommendation to remove number 8 and adjust item number 9 to a 5-minute limit. And again, that's up for board discussion.
So you want her to read these at the beginning of every meeting?
Yes, that's what he is saying, or either to remind people of it when we were in public and in person. Ivy used to print it and put it in front of each of our seats, if anybody remembers when we used to be live and in person.
It doesn't have to be, you know, where Antoinette's reading line by line. It's a, hey, folks, remember we have our board norms we have to adhere to, etc.
Got it.
Okay. All right. So I thought we could get through some of just what's on Ashley's email in regards to this, but it seems like even these things will not can't
Now, what
be
email are you
synced.
referencing so we can see?
It's in the administrative content of the agenda.
Thank you. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
So I'm
I'm in favor of 8 and 9 of your suggested change to 8 and 9. If that helps anyone. So 5 minutes on a topic versus only, you know, having to count how many times you talk is a way of streamlining it. So yes, maybe we can revisit this at a retreat when we're fresh and work it over in depth and detail. But right now, yes, I think we could combine 8 and 9 and just have one 5-minute limit instead of limiting our number of inputs. That seems like an improvement to me.
Back.
Thank you. David, anybody else?
I agree to eliminate 8 and make 9 or whatever is in the email.
I really don't see how that's going to work. You're basically going to let everyone give a 5-minute speech, end of story. Okay.
I feel, I'm with Tanya.
Okay, so that's a no.
Anyone else? Well, I'm assuming Ashley, yes, because it's your recommendation as well. And Perry, I'm assuming you too, because you guys worked on it together.
I
Please
am
correct me if I'm
supporting,
wrong.
no, you're right. I am supporting what we recommended.
Okay. All right, Miss Carey.
What you're suggesting has been tried and it has been done. At one point, they even read the listing of things on that paper you call, I forgot what you call the paper, but on that paper.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember the board tried to limit themselves to a certain amount of time to speak. It's all been done in the past, and that's why we have what we have today.
Okay, but I believe
I can say that at board retreats, sometimes we would go out and we would, each person would read one and go around the room once, but we didn't do it every month. But it was, you know, a couple of times a year appeared to be beneficial, reminding ourselves what the rules are, however well or poorly we followed the rules.
Okay, well, it looks like it's still, as far as consensus, it's the majority, so we'll move forward with that one. So that's with number 1 and number 2. And then it has discussion, additional discussion points. I'm gonna say, can we hold that to another one?
Yes, I think that's going to be a longer conversation anyway, so we could definitely hold that for another meeting.
All right.
And then the last one was just also asking about the tool. That's part of the additional discussion points. If you haven't had a chance to review the tool, please do so before the next time we have time to talk about it. And again, the request there was essentially just pick out, cross out whatever you don't think makes sense in that tool. Because we thought the tool was helpful, but we thought it would probably be a little bit much to ask every board trustee to fill out at the end of each meeting. So we want to streamline that and cross out what doesn't make sense and then aggregate that as a group and decide if we want to actually use the tool or not in a streamlined fashion. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Any other reports? Okay. We are up to approvals. Approval section C through I. All right, is there a motion to approve the instructional personnel items presented to the board for approval this evening?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay, one abstention. Section D, non-instructional personnel items. Is there a motion to approve the non-instructional personnel items, excuse me, presented to the board for approval this evening?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Budget items. Section E, is there a motion to approve? I'm sorry. Is there a motion to approve the budget items presented to the board for approval this evening?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. Board action items. Is there a motion to approve the board action items presented to the board for approval this evening?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Okay, finance items. Is there a motion to approve the finance items presented to the board for approval this evening?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. Sorry.
And
Yes.
you're getting to H now? I would like to pull H1.
Okay.
Could you read that too, please?
I'm sorry, did she say poll or pull?
Pull or pull it?
Pull it.
You said H1.
I don't agree with that. I think you should poll the board to see if we want to pull it.
Hold on for one second. I'm trying to get through it.
Tanya, can I ask you what you're actually asking for it to be voted on separately?
I would
or-
like it to be voted on separately. I'd like to have a discussion on it.
Got it.
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought you meant like pull it and not, like table it. Sorry.
No, I didn't mean table. I meant pull for discussion.
Duh, you're right. You're right. You didn't say table. My bad. Sorry about that.
Okay. All right. All right, so everything except for that. Just pulling H.
I'll accept.
I'm so pulling, I'm sorry, H1. Okay. So is there a motion to approve the business items presented to the board except for H1 for approval this evening?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? The motion carries. Okay, so do you want a discussion now?
Yes, I would like to have the administration explain the purpose of spending $27,000 to do this study, because it seems to me like it's something that could very easily be done in-house. So I'd like to understand better why this is necessary.
So it's, first of all, it's aidable, this first. Secondly, this study isn't just a study, and no, it cannot be done in-house. You can't have people to assess and audit their own work. So it's an audit of our curriculum, our policies, our procedures for the purpose of equity and inclusion. As I indicated in Friday's packet to the board, we're probably one of the few school districts in the county that has not necessarily put forth an approach to equity, diversity, and inclusion. That being said, we're looking at our curriculum offerings. We're looking at how we identify which students go into IB programs, AP programs, to make sure that there is equity in our program offerings to all of the students here at Greenburgh Central School District. In addition, there will be a deep dive into our current policies to see if there are any unintentional procedures and protocols that may not necessarily support students of diverse backgrounds. This work is being done pretty much with all of our school districts in the county. I think Greenburgh is kind of last in doing this. So that is the purpose of EOS. If there are any more questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Yes, I do have a few additional questions. So this is going to specifically look at students who are essentially admitted into IB courses or AP courses, because they're not really open to everyone. You have to have a certain trajectory and have a certain, how shall I say, academic performance in order to get into these into this level of coursework. So I guess I'm having a little trouble understanding what it is what parameters you're going to be looking at, that you or this company will be looking at to ensure that there is equity in this particular case, because really students have to test into these on some level. I mean, you know, if you're looking at that, then you really, the interventions that you're talking about, I assume, would be really way before the kids get to this point where they're actually being sort of split up by these, essentially by levels.
So those are some of the recommendations that can be made. This model that you're describing is very similar to what's happening in New York City with specialized schools, ensuring that students of color have the same opportunity as their counterparts, to make sure that there's an equitable distribution of students who are going into those programs. Is the testing fair to those students? Are we reaching out to families to educate them about those programs so that we can begin preparing students as early as elementary? So it's really looking at the entire organization to ensure that we have protocols and procedures in place so that we have equitable outcomes for all students, be it special ed students, be it students of color, being students from immigrant families. We will get a report. We will get recommendations. We will get recommendations about our policies that are in place, about our procedures. We don't want to unintentionally discriminate against any particular subgroup, and it's something that the district would never do. But there are things in place that we may not necessarily be aware of that can shut out certain groups of children. And that's what we're looking at. We're looking at equity work, we're looking at even distribution, and we're looking at equitable outcomes for all students. Are there any other questions?
And when you say this is aidable, what does that mean exactly?
It's BOCES aidable.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
Terry?
I was just going to say, if I could make a motion to make a motion, and then we could have further discussion on it, because that's how we typically do this.
So you're moving to adopt item H1?
Well, I mean,
we pulled it for discussion.
if Antoinette asked for the motion.
but we pulled it for this discussion, so it's.
No, yeah, no, I'm saying, but what we usually do when we pull something for discussion, and Ivy can correct me if I'm wrong, before we have discussion, we have it, we make a motion, we get a second, and then the president calls for discussion, and then those questions are asked.
You can. I did it differently. So we've already started it. So if anybody has any other questions about this, we could, if not, we can move on. Tracy.
I was gonna ask the superintendent if with the AP and the IB courses, I actually thought that anyone could take those courses.
So you're right. It is open to all. IB is open to all. However, for those students who are on the track to receive the diploma, that's not open to all.
Yeah. Okay.
So we want to make sure that students who are recommended, students who are going into these programs, that we have an equitable distribution. We're going to add out to that. We're looking at the out program. If you remember, Dr. Valente showed you all a graph that shows the distribution of students to make sure we're targeting our males of color. Are we targeting females? Do we have an equitable distribution? Is it just one particular ethnicity that will have privilege to these particular classes? It's a great study that I think that we all can learn and benefit from as it relates to the operations of the district.
Tracy.
I thought the out, when that was presented to us, it was presented that the two exams they were using were objective, so that this actually couldn't happen. So
this is more of a check and balance of our own work.
Okay.
It's a check and balance of our own work to keep us all whole and to make sure that we actually do what we purport we're going to do.
Okay.
As it relates to equity, diversity, and inclusion in our school district.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So let me see it. I'm sorry. Let me go back to it.
Ouch.
All right. So is there a motion to approve the business item presented to the board, H1 for, thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, it carries. Section I, pupil personnel services items. Is there a motion to approve the pupil personnel services items presented to the board for approval this evening?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Now we are off to let's get to it, new business. New business. All right, Ivy has something. Okay, so this is about the public hearing. I'm sorry. We have to the public hearing, we just have to we had to change the wording, and so we have to do a resolution for that. If I can get my phone over. Okay, hold on. All right, you're ready for the draft on this? Not the draft, but you're ready for the notice on this. Okay. Again, this is because we had to, I mean, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, we had to make changes because of how we are having or holding our our notice. So the legal notice that we usually share needed to be updated. Okay. That was good, Ivy? Or do you have
Just
something?
to provide a little summary, the legal notice that the board approved for the annual district meeting, your annual budget vote and election, includes that the budget hearing will be held in person. That language provided by council was based on the information at the time that everything was going to be done in person. So that's why it was written in that fashion. Now, the governor has extended the virtual meetings past the May 4th date, so you can have your meeting virtually. If you want to have the budget hearing remote, then the legal notice has to be updated. And since it was a board approved legal notice, then the board would have to amend the legal notice to reflect that it will be held virtually. And in addition to that, based on the conversation this evening for last night's public hearing, the way you want public input, if you want to have it virtually, the protocol we've been following is that everyone has to pre-register to speak. If you want something different, I'll need direction from the board so that the legal notice can reflect the protocol that you want followed during the hearing.
Okay, Tracy.
One of my new items, new business, was gonna be us having meetings in person. And I know you said Ivy did some research on the other districts and what they're doing. Would it be more feasible to just have at least that meeting in person so that we don't have the issue of people having to register beforehand? People can be there in person and sign up to speak, as well as we notify it. I mean, we notice it the way that we already approved.
I mean, that's an option. It's what does the board want to do?
I want to stay remote till I get vaccinated.
I'm going to stay remote because I'm not vaccinated either, and I don't intend to get it. So.
Okay, anybody else wants to, I guess not go remote? There are two.
Want to be in person.
In person, Tanya, in person.
It's possible. Is it possible to have a meeting where some of us are in person and some are remote?
That's the way it's going to have to be, because I'm not coming out in person. I'm not coming out to be around a bunch of folks.
That's why I'm asking, because it's a moot point. If we have board members that can't come in person, then we don't need to take a vote if it's not possible.
So if you are in person and you revert to in-person meetings, then the rules would apply where a board member would have to notice where they're holding their meeting, and they have to be willing to have individuals attend wherever they are, and they have to be I don't believe you can be on the phone. I believe you need to be able to be seen. You have to be visible.
Okay, thank you. So we can't. Okay, moot point. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna read what we do have here. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing of the qualified voters of the Greenburgh Central School District, County of Westchester, Hartsdale, New York, will be held remotely to the extent permitted by executive order on May 4th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Prevailing time for the presentation of the budget document for the ensuing school year 2021 through 2022 Individuals may access the hearing on, May 4th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. and thereafter via our YouTube channel. Pursuant to Board Policy 1510, anyone wishing to speak on the budget during the public hearing must register in advance with the district clerk at ikraus@greenbergcsd.org no later than May 3rd, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. and will receive further instructions once they register.
Can I ask if we can move that deadline? I guess as a question for Ivy, is that deadline the day before at 5 because we need that much time? Or could we make it like the same day by noon or whatever? 5, same day?
That 24-hour provision is what you changed your policy to for remote meetings. So that's to comply with your policy.
For signing up to speak, but even with this particular type of hearing, we have to.
The policy was when taking comments for virtual meetings.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Here, I read the notice. All those in favor? No, I'm sorry. Wait, I'm sorry. Hold on. Ivy has her hand up. Sorry.
Ms. Darden-Cintron, there was a resolution before that to read, to have the motion based on.
Oh, be it resolved. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, I see it, Ivy. Thank you. Be it resolved. Wait, do you want me to read it all together, Ivy? Or
No, just the resolution.
okay. Be it resolved that the Board of Education amends the annual district meeting legal notice to reflect that the budget hearing will be held remotely as per the extension of Executive Order 2021. All those in favor?
It needs to be moved and seconded.
So moved.
I did. Oh, I didn't even hear it being second. Okay, so moved.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Any abstentions? The motion carries. All right. Is there any other closing items?
Tracy has her hand up.
Tracy.
2 things. One, we have a CEC meeting on April 26th, which is Monday at 7:30 for 1 hour. It will be on the Zoom for people to watch. And we will have our business official, Lisa Raymond, and Dr. Corey Reynolds in attendance, and it will be all about the budget. So I have an awesome CEC committee. I'm sure they'll have tons of questions. I did kind of promise, but try to hope that we can get enough questions ahead of time to Dr. Reynolds and Miss Raymond so that they can be prepared to answer the questions. So when I do send out my reminder to my committee, I'm going to ask them to send the questions by like Friday or something so that they can have them in advance. And then the second thing I was going to ask about, I know the superintendent wanted to talk about the summer camps with us. So I don't know, Dr. Chase, if it's late, I don't know if it's still within the time that we wanted to mention it.
So I was waiting for you to finish. Yeah, I just want to remind the board that the district is planning for a summer program, and we're planning to house our summer program at Highview School as well as the high school. The town has asked if they could use our facilities for summer camp, summer programs. I am asking the board, I guess through consensus, if they give us permission to enter a relationship with the town for the summer. We would greatly appreciate it. They are waiting to hear from us.
I move the motion.
I thought we already approved this, but yes.
I thought so too, but I move the motion.
Actually, we didn't. You've asked us to give you the names of the schools we're going to use, so you didn't.
So Dr. Che, just to ask a question, so you're using Highview and the Woodlands Middle High School, and the town will be using.
Lisa, did they specify which school they would like to use?
Yes, they're going to use LFJ, excuse me, and the fields at the high school.
Okay. So.
That works.
I'm sorry, in the past, they've also used Woodlands Middle High School gym, especially because sometimes it rains in the summer. Is it safe to assume that they may use just the gym, one of the gym areas?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
Dr. Reynolds, just correct me if I'm wrong. You're not going to be using the gym?
No, and even if we do use that space, we can work around the town.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so Dr. Chase asked for consensus. How do we feel?
There's no conflict. I'm happy. Good.
Great. Anyone else that it? Yes, I say yes. Anybody else? Tracy?
Yes.
Okay, yes, yes, yes. Great. Is
Okay,
there? Thank you, Dr. Chase. Is there any other new business? Hearing and seeing no hands, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstentions? The motion carries. Good night, everybody. Thank you for all that you do. Have a good night, everybody.
All right.
Ashley, feel better.